I will support the deal tonight, as I did before, and I welcome the further agreement that was struck in Strasbourg in relation to the backstop, about which we now have far greater legal certainty and our ability over our ability to exit it. But the focus of this debate, most of the debate over the last 24 hours and previously, has been about the legalities of the backstop and exiting it. I believe that ultimately we should care about the real-world risk of being trapped in the backstop. And that has been discussed very little. What are the actual chances that we will be trapped in the backstop? Not from the legal point of view, but from the political point of view. Is it likely that that is the position that we will find ourselves in? And I think it is perfectly possible to argue that it is highly unlikely. First of all, and I agree with my right honourable friend, the member for Preseli Pembrokeshire, on this, being in the backstop wouldn't benefit the EU at all. They would not want us to remain in it. For instance, the UK would have many of the benefits of the single market while we were in the backstop without paying in. I think it's simply a wrong analysis to believe that the EU wishes to trap us in the backstop. Secondly, we have several hurdles to jump before we ever got into the backstop. It only starts to happen, or we only start to consider it as a possibility, if a trade deal isn't ready. Now we have further legal certainty about the efforts to ensure that the trade deal will be ready. It only starts to become a possibility if the implementation period is not extended, because that's an alternative. It only starts to become a possibility if alternative arrangements are not completed. And again, we now have more certainty over the preparations for those alternative arrangements. So we should stop talking as though it's certain that we will get into the backstop, certain we will be trapped. Ultimately, we have a political, not a legal judgment to make. I give way to my honourable friend.
Thank you. And he's making such a powerful case. Is this not about degrees of risk, weighing up the minuscule, as far as I see it, risk of being trapped in a backstop, against the far, far greater risk of not agreeing this deal, which throws this country into the jeopardy of jeopardising all the good things this deal should bring us?
My honourable friend has quite brilliantly anticipated my very next sentence. Ultimately, we have a political, not a legal judgment to make. Is the theoretical, highly unlikely possibility we will be trapped in the backstop really enough to risk Brexit altogether? Let me say, first of all, that if anyone is clinging to the hope that no deal could still happen, and that's why they would like to vote against this deal to achieve it, if anybody is thinking that, and it appeared to me that my right honourable friend, the member for Uxbridge and South Ruislip, was, they should forget it. It is quite clear that this House is not going to allow no deal. Whether one supports that move or not, it is about to be taken off the table as an option. And therefore, we face the clear and present danger that if this deal does not go through, Brexit will be diluted, seriously delayed, or ditched altogether. That might be what members opposite want. There is a whole cadre of members opposite who want a second referendum, others who want to cause difficulty for the government. But one thing is clear, you cannot talk on these benches about gaining control, taking back control, only immediately to cede control to the House of Commons and lose any further control we have to shape the kind of Brexit we will like. If honourable members on these benches do not like the deal as currently constituted, let them spend the next few months discussing and then voting on and then being outvoted on whether they like Norway, where we become a rule taker, whether they want a permanent customs union, not a temporary one as we would find in the backstop, a permanent customs union, because that's what the benches opposite want, and that is what this House of Commons will give us, whether my honourable friends like it or not. That is the downside, that is the risk that they are now running. Brexit diluted, seriously delayed or ditched altogether. The choice is completely clear. Damaging uncertainty from further delay, anger in the country that we had not implemented the decision that the country took. The risk, my honourable friends should be perfectly well aware of, that actually the impasse leads to a general election. Conversely, there is a huge upside to get this deal through. We avert the risk of no deal, although I think that's about to be averted altogether. We leave, as promised, on the 29th of March or shortly afterwards. Business confidence comes back, investment returns. We know business is sitting on cash at the moment because we have an implementation period and certainty for businesses. And resources will be released for public services because, as the Chancellor will have to make clear tomorrow, in the event this deal does not go through, he has to hold on to cash in the event of uncertainty, in the event of no deal becoming a possibility. And that cash could be released if the deal goes through for public services, which every member in this House would like to see. There are honourable members in this House who voted to trigger Article 50, who voted for the referendum. They are still determined now, even though they did that within the last 2 years, to oppose this deal, because in reality they've got to a position where they want to oppose or dilute Brexit altogether. But I say to my honourable friends, this is not a moment to choose ideological purity above pragmatism. And this deal is a pragmatic deal which recognises the fact that, yes, 17.4 million people did vote to leave. The majority did vote to leave the European Union, but 16.1 million people voted to remain, and we have to compromise. This is not a compromise with the European Union, it is a compromise with the country, and a sensible compromise that recognises that in leaving we have to carry the public with us, we have to carry business confidence with us, and that is the sensible course to take. I say to honourable members, they have a second chance now to support this deal, and if they really want to deliver Brexit, then they should.